Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. In just about 3 weeks, arguably the largest board game convention in the entire world is going to be going on over in Europe. Actually, Essen, Germany is where it is. But since I'm not actually going to be going to the fair because, I'm a part-time reviewer on a volunteer-only basis, I don't have the funds and such to go over there. It's such a big trip. So instead, today we're together going to be paratrooping in all the way from space through all these layers of the atmosphere, through the clouds, down onto Earth, into Europe, into Essen, Germany. Now, we're going to talk about my top 10 most anticipated games for this Essen Spiel Fair and why I'm interested about them. So let's take a look. Let's start with number 10 and let's get going.
Number 10.
Now this is a puzzly game from Horrible Games. Actually, the guy used to be with Cranial Creations when they did Steam Park, but now he's with Horrible Games. This is a game called Potion Explosion. And the reason why I'm interested in this is I like puzzly games. And this definitely is one of those puzzly games where you've got all these different colored marbles and essentially you're going to be pulling them out and grabbing them and placing them on potions. And then once you're done filling up those potions, you can drink it, turn it up when you want, and induct a special ability, which is cool. Now the coolest part about this is that it has this sort of combo effect going on with the puzzly nature of it. For example, when you pull out certain marbles, if the next marbles actually are the same colors of those, it'll continue to pull out and pull out and pull out, similar to say Candy Crush or like Bejeweled on some of the apps. So it's taken some of those clever apps that a lot of people like to play with comboing different colors of jewels and things like that and brings it to a tangible, a tactile function here with all the different marbles coming down different chutes. So for me, it's puzzly and it's got that cool combo effect that you're going to be looking for how things will combo when I pull these things out and then inducting special abilities. So for me, that's number 10, Potion Explosion.
Number 9.
For number 9, it is Hide, H-I-D-E, which is Hidden Identity Dice Espionage. Now, I like hidden identity stuff, I like deduction, I like dice, and this kind of puts it all together, where you're trying to debate how much information should you show about yourself because you're going to gain information, but you're going to give up information, or how many things can you do secretly behind your board there to try to get info. You've got dice, there's cards in the middle that represent different intelligence that you're trying to find out about other people, and it's going to be a mix and match of sort of pressing towards giving up too much information, but keeping some of your own, and then trying to gain some intelligence and things like that. So I like deduction, I like hidden identity, I like dice, and that's why this one seems interesting to me. It's from a sort of a smaller publisher. I think it's Korea Board Games is putting this one out, and that's number 9.
Number 8.
Number 8 is actually a reprinting of a game that came out a while back called Poseidon's Kingdom. And this was put out by Fragger Games, and it was a very popular, and you look on Board Game Geek, and these things are selling for, close to $200. So I'm glad this is being reprinted, bringing it back to normal prices again. Game Salute's putting this out, and from what I've heard from their podcast, is they really wanted the production value to be super high quality in this. And the thing that really makes me want this game is it has this humongous dice wave. And during your turn, some of the things you can do is put dice on this wave. When it fills up, it comes crashing down, the thing goes flying down, and the dice go toppling all over the board, and now you've got new dice that you can go out and research and grab on your turn with different characters. So it seems like a really fun, interesting game that people will be turning their heads to look at. It's a tested and true game. I've never played it, but a lot of people have a lot of good things to say about it, and now with even bigger and better components, and they've actually added some characters, so I'm interested in this one, number 8, Poseidon's Kingdom.
Number 7.
Now, I love deduction games, and two of my favorites are Incognito and Think Straight, who are both designed by Leo Colavini. This game is Odyssey Wrath of Poseidon. This is going to actually weird that Poseidon is in the names of this game and the one just before it, but this is being done by Ares Games, and this is sort of a asymmetrical game where one player will be playing Poseidon, and he's going to be throwing storms and different objects and things at these navigators. And so one player is Poseidon, the other one's the navigators. The navigators have boards, but they're kind of placing where they think they are, where Poseidon has the board and knows exactly where they are, and they're throwing storms. And the navigators are trying to deduce where they are based upon what's happening to them and what Poseidon's doing to them. So I like this. I love these sort of asymmetrical games where there's some hidden information, sort of hidden movement a little bit. And so this one is just what I'm going to look forward to because Ares Games produces really good quality components and games. Leo Colavini is a great deduction designer, asymmetrical. It hits all the cylinders for me. That's Odyssey, Wrath of Poseidon.
Number 6.
Well, one of my favorite games is Power Grid, and now they're coming out with a expansion called Power Grid Stock. Now, there's 3 different ways to play this game. And it borrows actually the modules from another game called 504 that's coming out there that mixes and matches a bunch of different modules of games and puts them together to have 504 games. But this uses sort of the shares version of that, where there's different ways that not only you're going to be controlling your power plants and your cities and stuff and turning them on, but now you're going to be invested into maybe yourself. There's some variants where you're just trying to make yourself stock better. There's other ones that will have you actually, if you're trying to have the most stock in the person who is supplying the most. So it seems interesting. Another layer of information, 3 different ways to play this. I'm very intrigued. I don't know all the details, but hey, 3 ways to play with a new thing of stock, adding it to Power Grid. I just hope it doesn't sort of, bloat it up. So I'm going to be interested to see this. That's Power Grid Stock.
Number 5.
Now this one I just hinted towards right before this, and that's 504. Again, there's 9 different modules from Freedom and Freeze, the guy who designed Power Grid. There's 9 modules, and between those 9 modules, you pick 3 of them, and you have a game. And so there's 504 combinations, and you pick any 3 of them. So there's pick up and deliver, there's production, there's shares, there's majorities, and things like that. So you pick these 3, and they have these combinations of games, and this just sounds fascinating to me. Now obviously I'm never going to have a time to play all of these, but I am going to want to hear about some of the more popular ones and take the aspects of games that I like and tinker with them and play with them in different orders and different situations and see how this fits. I've heard really good things about this, and it's so innovative that I'd be hard-pressed not to have this on the list, even though I probably won't be able to play even a quarter of these. It sounds interesting to me, and that's 504.
Number 4.
My number 4 is another asymmetrical hidden movement game called They Come Unseen from Osprey Games. The reason why I'm interested in this is it was actually designed by a Royal Navy officer and a submarine commander. And I love hidden movement games, but almost all of them that I've played, pretty much all of them that I've played that are popular, are people. People moving, people hiding, people killing. This is like hidden movement meets battleship. I mean, this sounds really cool, where one side plays the submarines and they're underwater, and they have a special underwater board that the other people can't see. And then there's an above the water board that everybody can see. There's all these cool controls that you can see that help gauge where you are in different ways. So it's basically the submarines are going to be trying to attack and destroy certain tactical things, and the topical people playing on the top board are going to be trying to destroy the submarines. Wow. I mean, hidden movement and asymmetrical play with submarines. This just sounds amazing to me. It sounds like a longer game, 90 minutes to 2.5 hours or something like that. So it might be a little long for my preference, but man, it's fascinating enough that I want to give this thing a try. And that's They Come Unseen.
Number 3.
Now this next one is from Bruno Cathala and Bruno Feduti. Double Brunos. And I just had Bruno Feduti on the Dice Steeple podcast, and he talked in depth about the background of this game. It's a 2-player strategic tactical game where one player plays the scientists, it's asymmetrical, and the other player plays raptors and their babies. And it's interesting because it's a card-playing game, and sort of abstracted the way it gets played, but the cards, depending on who plays the lower card, gets to do that action, and then the other player gets movement or fighting points with the difference between the numbers in those cards. There's some interesting mechanics there, and I've heard it's, even though it's a kind of an abstracty-ish game, that it's actually pretty thematic, and that really excites me because, Bruno Cathala is my favorite designer, and when he does abstract-ish 2-player games, I tend to like them, even though I don't like abstract games. So 2 heavy hitter designers, I've heard great things about it, and that's why this one is so high, and that's Raptor.
Number 2.
Well, one of my favorite games is Ticket to Ride, and there's a new map coming out. Anytime that happens, I'm excited. It's actually a double-sided map, Pennsylvania and the United Kingdom. Now, the Pennsylvania map is all about shares, and as you build trains on different color routes, you're going to be gaining shares of that color or company, and at the end you're going to get a certain amount of points for being in first, second, third, or fourth of each of those companies, and they're worth different amounts depending on which color it is, because there's more or less on the board. It's just one more thing to kind of look at for majorities. It seems like maybe just a bump up maybe in complexity from the normal Ticket to Ride, or maybe just as complex as some of the other ones. Now the other side, the United Kingdom, sounds really interesting. It sounds more of a gamer version of Ticket to Ride, more along the lines of like the Markland, it sounds like, where you can only build one or two trains at a time at the beginning of the game, and wilds are super important because wilds will allow you to go further, and or you can use them to buy technologies, which will also allow you to do different things and build further. So it sounds like it's got these tough decision making that's a little bit heavier than a typical Ticket to Ride. And normally I'm always interested in Ticket to Ride maps because I just love that game, and each one really feels very different from the standard game. And this one sounds like it's going to be even more. Two different types of boards, two different types of playing. One maybe a little bit more than gamer, one that's like just normal, like, you know, a little bit above average. So I'm really excited about this one. That's the new Ticket to Ride map. I think it's volume 5 with Pennsylvania and the UK.
Number 1.
Now, Bruno Cathala is my favorite designer, so this shouldn't be too much of a surprise, but I have a little story about this. Is 2014 Gen Con, a year and a half ago, Z Garcia and I were having dinner with Bruno Cathala, and he asked if he could pull out a prototype, and of course we're like, yeah, sure, of course, Bruno. He pulls out a 2-player Seven Wonders game, and we almost fell off our chairs. He says, we are showing this to Asmodee tomorrow to see if they want it. And I've been dying to play this ever since, and it's coming out at Essen with him and Antoine Bowser. Now, Seven Wonders is a weird game for me that I did not like it the first handful of plays that I played it. And I think a lot of that was attributed to it was very late at night. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. It was at a convention. Everybody knew how to play except me. They were kind of rushing through the rules, playing. So it didn't go over well, but after a while, I did really like it after I spent some different time with it. So I'm really excited. I've got Bruno, my favorite designer, who I think is the best 2-player designer. You have him mate with the Seven Wonders, and it looks and it feels like Seven Wonders. There's 3 different ways to win. You know, you get this tug of war with military. You've got going to the other player's capital. You've got trying to get 6 of the unique scientific symbols. Different ways to win the pyramid of you know, the cards are only available once they're uncovered, so there's a timing aspect of which card should you get. It just seems like an amazing thing, and of course it's Bruno. So this has got to be my number 1. That's Seven Wonders Duel. Well, there's my top 10 anticipated games for Essen this year. Of course, I'm not going. Maybe sometime in the future as the Game Boy Geek expands, maybe with more viewership, and we could be supported to go there. And let's together spread our love of board games and through board games.